Yeah, Jake and Keegan have.
I kept planning to make loaves of bread because my girls everyone was gonna come home like every weekend. They were gonna come home, and every weekend they didn't come home, and I was like, I grocery shopped with the mentality they were coming home, and
You're
I
happy
was
about
like,
that though, because you have food.
yes. Well, I'm a planner. My pantry is well stocked. Like I don't have to go to the grocery store at all anytime. And I mean, just Bruce and I right now, so.
I'm prepared for 80 people to come to eat at any day. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I'm ready. Yep.
That's
For sure.
awesome.
I always had a joke about that. 80 people can arrive, I'll feed you. And I'm not sure what yet, but yeah, I have a stock.
I think so too. I think like I will always have food if people like. Yes, I can always pull something together. I'm Chinese. We have rice, so if I have rice and eggs, we're good enough.
Okay. I'm actually trying to change some of the things that I cook these days, right? Like I've been on that game on that, and we've kind of fallen off a little bit, but we're back at it. And
Mm-hmm.
much more vegetable based diet, right? With
Yeah.
a lot of vegetables, and we've always had meatless days, but I'm really trying to be much more thoughtful about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of fun.
I could go pescatarian, but I don't think I. I mean, I could, but I don't think I could go completely vegetarian.
But we're not. We still have meat. I see there's a couple people here, right?
Yep. Exciting, exciting, exciting. Yeah, for those of you joining us, we're cold. If you don't know where we are, we're in Houston. So we decided we are going to commemorate this period of our lives where we've been snowed in, power outages, ice storms, by wearing our knit caps.
It's funny you say that though, because I have been in a big ice storm in Montreal in 1998. And I told all my neighbors here, like when we didn't have power, which has been rolling, put your hat on in the house. That's what you do. Keep your head warm. And so I'm walking around with my hat on. And our house, I have power, obviously, right now, but it's still not that warm in my house.
Yeah. Well, we're trying to conserve power for the people that don't have it. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Today is our trainers webinar series. It's a 30-minute webinar. Wilma and I wasn't even quite sure a day ago whether we would make it because neither of us had power for like a full day, but we have recovered, and knock wood, we'll be able to make it through this webinar. So we're so excited. I mean, get trainers to talk about how to conduct this training, and 30 minutes just doesn't seem like enough time. And then I told Wilma, we're going to do 5 tips, and Wilma's like, 5 tips? So we're just going to try to narrow it down. We're trying to stay focused. We're trying not to get too excited. But this webinar will be recorded. If for any reason you miss any of it, you can come back or share it with your fellow trainers and colleagues. We'll try to take any questions that you have live. If we don't get to them live in the Q&A section, we'll follow up with you after the session is over. Oh, my name is Christina, and I'm the training director here at Extended Disc. And joining me is my delightful colleague, Wilma Stevens, senior trainer at Extended Disc, and my wonderful mentor. Hi, Wilma.
Well, I feel pressure when you say delightful. Then I actually have to try to be delightful, but I will do my best. And back at you, Christina is super delightful. So I love this slide. We're saying the word love a lot, but confidence, you've got this. This is really where we want you to be when you are doing your session. Because when we feel confident as the facilitator, we just do a better job. And when we were having our little practice or talking about this, I said, none of us are ever trying to do a bad job. It's like when you cook a meal, right? You're not trying to cook a meal. I used to say this to my kids. I'm not trying to make a bad meal. It just happened to be a bad meal. And I think that, sometimes when we do a session, it doesn't always turn out exactly like we want, but we have to give ourselves some grace about that. Confidence, you've got this. We're about preparation. You know that expression, by failing to prepare, you prepare to fail. So preparation is the pathway to confidence, for sure. That's where we're going to start, is show you some of the things we do to prepare, or things that are available to you to make your life easy to prepare. But in preparation, and Christina and I had this kind of a bit of a debate on this, I say preparation not at the expense of your joy. And of course, Christina said, but
And
what
then
about
there's
us?
me who, yeah, who sits on
What
the
about
other
us?
side of the model.
Yes, what would you say about that, Christina?
I guess it's, we really are talking about, just styles, what makes us comfortable. And it's even true when, the two of us train, because we are different styles. And when she says, don't stress, or, you don't want to over prepare, I'm an S style. There's no such thing as over preparing.
I think
I need my plan A.
yes,
I need my plan B.
but I think
Um,
that speaks to the disc styles. So my point about this is you prepare um, so that you are feeling confident, right? So that you can go in there and be your best self. So when I say prepare, but not at the expense of your joy, right? Because when you deliver disc, it is fun and people like to learn about themselves. So it's actually a pretty great experience. So this year,
yeah,
confidence
I would.
got this. Go ahead, sorry.
I would also say, sorry, Wilma. We have the preparation steps for you if you need them. We're not going to talk about them here, but we have handouts that talk about, what apps to use, what to do with your apps, how do you better prepare your clients for the certification. So part of this confidence is to know that we have your back, that you don't have to create a lot of new things. A lot of them have already been created for you, so that, as Wilma says, you feel prepared. Don't over prepare, and we will do our share, whether it's more or less, especially in the beginning, to help you get going. So let's actually talk about the 5 tips that we hammered out. I'm sure we will give you more tips than what are actually listed here, but I at least wanted to, Wilma and I were thinking about what tips could we focus on that would give you the motivation, that extra boost of confidence that you need to jump in there and do your first session. So, there's no right order. We can just randomly pick, so in terms of knowing your resources, what do you usually think about in terms of gathering resources, Wilma?
Okay, I'm ready to answer that question. But when we said don't over prepare, I would just like to go to the other side of the model to tell everybody don't under prepare. Your confidence is better. You're like the Goldilocks mama bear, like just get it right. Just get it right how you like it. Okay. What do I do to pull my resources together? So since we've been talking about food, sometimes recipe guides tell you to get kind of collect your ingredients, right? Get all your ingredients, read the directions. So I think that when we talk about collecting our resources, I think we can start to just make our own mental checklists of the items that we have. One of the things that Christina does, which she is marvelous at, is she manages the materials that we have, like, develops the PowerPoint or writes the webinar, writes the blogs, or puts that kind of stuff on. And I'm telling you, she produces all kinds of material. She's actually like a one-man machine. But when we're talking about getting to know your resources, the first thing that I always say after certification to people as their confidence tip, we have a book called The 4 Steps to Effective Communication. Do you have a copy of that, Christina? You there?
Always.
Okay, so is it
You want me to show it?
yeah, to show them so what you know what I'm talking about. I was going to bring mine
Yes.
downstairs.
We always have it available. You could see it here. It's something that we originally developed to give to our participants. So it's a workbook that covers the 4 steps, which we're going to talk about today. But we have learned that it has become our training Bible. So it's never far from me when I'm training because I never know when I need it.
Well, it's a soft place to land. So I always say when we're pulling our resources together, make sure you have that. And I always say, make sure you put your name on it because it's valuable. You don't want it to walk away, but it really tells our story. It tells our story. And that's a good, quick reference for you to have as well as you're preparing.
Yeah, I think the other reason why I like it is for some, again, my style, I have a lot of information and I want to share all of it with all my participants, right? But what this 4 steps book does is it grounds me. It reminds me to bring it down to a basic level that's easily understood by people hearing about this for the first time, because I will get very excited and go into overdrive.
Right. So it's, I like that. I like that part. Right now, most of us who are doing DISC are doing DISC virtually, right? We are delivering our sessions virtually. So other resources that are available, we have PowerPoints, all kinds of PowerPoints that you've made or collectively they've been built. That's a great resource. What other ones would you add in here?
We'll talk a little bit more about the different kinds of resources. Just know that we have different resources for you that, through your training, you'll have your own, but just kind of lay it out there. Go through, because what it will do, it will help you also think about what is the end goal for your training. So it'll help you see the bigger picture, right? If you know your end goal, then you can narrow down the materials that you'll need at hand or what additional resources you need. And that kind of takes us, the next one I'm going to pick is the pulling it all together. How do we take all the materials we have? How do we think about the group that we're training or even the content in which we're training? Because some of us aren't just doing a general DISC session. Some of us have gone through training and we're given the task of doing a leadership session or a sales session. So, think about how are we going to pull it all together. And again, it speaks to a little bit about the resources. Again, we have materials that cover different content areas. So the purpose for you is you're not having to reinvent the wheel, but, taking your preparation, taking the resources you have and taking the leap, now sending out your DISC assessments so that your participants can take it, thinking about the size of the group, thinking about how you're going to deliver it. Are you going to do it in person? Are you going to do it virtually? So really, how do you bring it all together? How do you see the big picture? What would you add to that, Wilma?
Well, I would, when we're pulling it all together, I'm still thinking that I know some of us are doing live, but most of right now is virtual. I think that when we're pulling it all together, get comfortable with your technology. Like, are you going to use a breakout room? Are you going to use some questions? What games are you going to play? How are you going to engage your audience so that they stay with you? So when we're pulling it all together, it's good to break it down so that you meet your time goals. If people say they have 2 hours, you want to make sure you have 2 hours worth of materials, not 2 hours and 30 minutes and not 1 hour and 30 minutes, just kind of 2 hours and, whatever, what you're looking to deliver. And I think that we also want to consider how can we engage our audience? Like, who is the audience and what would be engaging for them? How are we going to draw them in so that they're really part of it? People who are learning and they're engaged in the learning are going to have better uptake, right? So pulling it.
I think that takes us to kind of going across where we're talking about applications which enhance learning goals. So, once you've established what you would like for your participants to walk away with from your DISC session, then how do we actually, the one thing, I say over and over again is people come to your disc sessions and they usually find it a very positive, fun experience, right? But what we don't want to have happen is for it to just be that experience that they walk away from. We really want to start thinking about ways that to get them to apply their learning. How do we tie their real world into the learning environment that they're in? So we talk about applications which enhance learning goals. Set the tone from the start. One of the things Wilma and I like to do is we'll just do a quick chat. We'll ask people to put answers in their chat. We might throw out a question like, hey, just use 2 words to describe yourself, or you're at a party. How do you think people would describe you? Anything to get people to start thinking about how they show up, or about their team. Whatever 2 questions it is, or whatever question it is, it sets the tone from the start. It's going to be interactive. Pay attention, and then start to build those activities throughout. And not only do you keep the activities going through your session, but think about what you can have them continue doing after the session. And one of the things I love that Wilma talks about is setting your phone. Wilma, you want to talk about how you ask people to kind of set a affirmation in their phone?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So we use technology, and we use technology to remind people. So perhaps we've been in a disc session. What I might have them do is say they're trying a behavioral adjustment. So we may have them put in an alarm that says, did I do my best to? And every day it comes up. And if they did try their best, eventually they're going to see some results, right? Because our life, kind of where we put our energy, is what it's going to look like. So yes, using technology that way is really brings it with them. I will tell you, I always assign homework. I always assign some sort of homework for people, because we all have been to great sessions and then you tuck your stuff away and you never look at it again. So I always make sure I build in a number of follow-ups, whether it's an exercise that we start and I have them finish, whether it's we build it into our phone to say, did I do my best? One thing I wanted to just jump in on what you had said, Christina, is about rules of engagement when we start. I think it's really important. When you see your instructor, we know uptake is better. But I will tell you, as the instructor, when I see my participants, I get energy from them and they get energy from me. If not, you're just talking into a blank screen, and it's not as easy. I will tell you, it's not as easy. So I let them know at the beginning I would like their cameras on. So I give them a lot of notice. And then while I'm here, say, hey, turn your cameras on. And I really strongly encourage them to do that. We know people like kind of often get sick of this. They're zoomed out. They get sick of the camera bit. But for you, you will be able to see on their face, are they getting what you say? You'll also be able to read what's happening in your session. So those rules of engagement, setting the tone, as you just said, is a great way to start. This practice what you teach is a line that Christina came up with earlier. And I love that, like, preach what you teach what you preach. And I think that if you're living that adjustment piece, did I do my best, and you're doing it, you will convey that to your audience. What do you think, Christina?
Yeah, I'm going to be straight up honest with you. I back then when I was first starting doing disc sessions, I actually had that aha moment, like, oh my God, why am I not practicing? Why am I not thinking about like who I am delivering a disc session to? Why am I not thinking about my own style under stress, or how I actually prefer to facilitate disc sessions? So, think about it, put some thought into it. Like, are you someone that likes to be prepared? What's the pacing that you are most comfortable with? Are you comfortable slowing it down if your participants are more of the reserved style? Are you, there's times where Wilma and I are like, okay, let's throw out what we plan to do because I've got a group of D styles here. So we're not going to do so much of the abstract fluff, So think about that ahead of time. Give yourself more flexibility, and absolutely facilitate thinking about those 4 steps, knowing your own self, knowing the styles of the people that you are delivering disc to, and making the adjustments when you need to make them.
Yes.
That's the reason why I picked that one.
I always run a name map. No matter what my group is, I run a name map. And the reason, well, twofold. Then I have everybody's name and disc style in front of me. But firstly, I want to see, how am I going to get in the way of myself, right? If I say I have a large group of Cs, I'm probably not going to encourage them to be my first participant, right? I'm going to go to a more active style to encourage them to get engaged. So I think that that in terms of adjustments, when you see that name map, as you talked about it, you will be able to pace your presentation based on who's in front of you.
Yeah, and what's great about the name map, it's a multi-person map that you can generate as long as your participants have taken the disc assessment. And it doesn't have to be an intact team. It's basically, you can run the specific map so you can see where their natural styles fall. Do you have a more reserved team versus a more people-oriented team where you're gonna have to build in a lot more time to chat? So getting to the last tip, we saved the best for last for you. And that's the 4 steps to effective interactions. Wilma and I live and breathe this. And if you come anywhere near us and you say the word disc training, the 4 steps will come up. Do you want to talk about it, Wilma?
Well, I think that all of our stuff is predicated on these 4 steps. Everything that we do starts here. So in a way, it's a checklist, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be sequential in how you deliver your stuff. Like typically when we do a certification, we do step 1 and 3 in our first session and step 2 and 4. But what happens here is it allows you to take a very large amount of material and chunk it into small bite-sized pieces in terms of your deliverables. So when we look at the 4 steps, I'm sure you're all familiar with that. Step 1, there's so many ways that you can deliver it, whether it's just a conversation, whether it's you're using that 4 steps booklet, whether you're using our videos. We have the 4 videos, D, I, S, and C. Step 2 always incorporates our assessment, which is our self-awareness piece. Step 3, it's really the tips on how to identify other styles. And then step 4, which is our action step, which to all of us is where the rubber hits the road. It's the flexing piece. It's when you actually get people to make an adjustment. And I've often said, when you're facilitating a class, 3 months later, people may not remember all the, some of the details that you have shared with them. If they actually think about, wow, my interaction with this person is not successful and I'm going to try something else, and they make an adjustment, you've hit a home run, because that's really what it's all about. Getting people to adjust their style to get the results they're looking for. What would you say to that?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, what's great about, I think, DISC that makes your job easier, makes it easier for you to get started, is you're really not teaching people something that they don't already fundamentally know. We all own typically our style. We know if we're talkative, we know if we're quieter. And there are times where we think the same of the other person. Oh, Wilma's a really friendly, open person. So maybe I'll let her chat more, or, I'll give her more opportunities to speak. So we do this, but where we tend to kind of fall short is that we don't do it consistently. And that's the strength of DISC. That's where we can really help our participants. DISC is a reinforcement tool to simply remind us to take what we already do well, but do it consistently. And, not only are these tips, as Wilma says, if you just do focus on tip 4, you've hit it out of the ballpark. And not only do we talk about it in our sessions, but it's built into fundamentally every tool that we've provided for you. Our support materials, it's actually built into the report itself. So I know that as we are extended DISC trainers and we love our job, and DISC is essentially all we do. But we also know that you are a wonderful client. It's another tool in your toolbox. It's one more thing that you typically do in your daily lives. And so our job here is to try to make your jobs just a little bit easier. So if you just focus on these 4 steps, it will make your life, and it will actually make your clients' lives much easier.
Yeah. And it keeps you in the lane, right? It just keeps you in the lane by knowing that you've got all of that done. So trainer support materials, really credit to Christina here, complete props. There are agendas, curriculum, PowerPoints, exercises, activities. We have that client resource site for those people that are using extended DISC assessments. And it is like the key to all things you need when you're doing a DISC session, right?
The only thing I would add is the client resource site is for active users of extended DISC. So, however, having said that, maybe you're not ready, you're not quite there yet, you haven't quite started yet. You may not have active access to it yet, but that doesn't mean you don't have access to all the support materials. So we are here to help you. So if you need something, reach out to us. Chances are we'll be able to get it to you. You heard Wilma talk about the team maps. What's great about the team maps is there's, as our clients, there's no additional cost for you to run the team map. So why wouldn't you, right? You get an insight into your audience, and you'll be better prepared. Needless to say, if you haven't figured out now, we love to help you. So we here are the extended DISC trainers, and I always jokingly say, kind of jokingly, right? As long as you don't abuse me, I am here for you. Make an appointment with us. We'll hop on a Zoom call. We'll send us a report that you're trying to interpret, or those last minute questions, or you want to walk through a team report. Reach out to us, because we're more than happy to help you there.
Yeah, I would agree with that, for sure.
So takeaways. We talked about 5 tips. We cheated a little. I think they're very broad tips, but if I had to summarize the tips, and Wilma, add on at any time, 4 steps: know it, live it, breathe it. Know your resources. You don't have to know each and every resource that we have, but if you wonder, is there something that would help me deliver this or help me with this, ask us, because there's a good chance we have it. Practice what you teach. Once we usually travel a lot. Well, in the good old pre-pandemic days. And so sometimes we end up in these little towns, and you hop in an Uber and they're like, oh, why are you in town? And I'm here to do DISC. And then it becomes this little conversation. Oh, what is DISC? And it always ends up, it's funny, it always ends up with, are you assessing me right now? And I'm like, I'm totally assessing you right now. So practice what you teach. Not only will it benefit you personally, but it will benefit how you deliver DISC. What were some other ones? So that was 3 of them. Oh, be prepared, right? Know your resources, and pulling it all together. So those were the 5 tips that we encourage you to focus on to help you get started and feel motivated on your own DISC training. I love my flowers. So you want to talk about just being kind and summarizing this for us, Wilma?
Yes, I will remind you that your first session is your most difficult session, right? Mm-hmm. Perfection is the enemy of good. We look for progress, not perfection. So be nice to yourself. I say the word for 2020 and 2021 is self-compassion. We've got a lot going on. A lot of people have a lot going on. So you're about to roll out your first session. Get after it, get at it, prepare um, for the amount that will work for you. We recommend don't be underprepared, don't be overprepared, just right. And that confidence piece, take a deep breath, step in, action is where it's at. Step into it, and we are absolutely confident that you've got this. And all the materials are available to you. We're here to help. Reach out, and we wish you all of the best. And I do love your beautiful notice there. I think that's a good point. Mhm.
That's right. So hopefully, even if you don't remember all the tips, know that we're here for you, that we're here. If you are interested in teach backs, we have teach back sessions if you're ready just to do a run through. And speaking of compassion, Wilma and I will be doing another webinar, but this one will be focusing on tools to help build compassion at work and at home. That will be next Wednesday when our weather, I think, will actually hit in closer to the 70s. So we live in an extreme. Today it's like in the lows in the teens, I think. So next week we won't be wearing our winter hats, but please join us if you have some time. If you can't make it, we do record it, and you can find this webinar registration at our extendeddisk.org events section of our website and any other future webinars that we have coming up as well. So thank you guys all for joining us, and we encourage you to just take the leap, get started.
Thanks, everybody. Stay warm.